Hello and welcome to Q&A with CNA. I'm Kyle Schwartz, and my guest today is Mary Kreitz, who is currently the Training Director at Child and Adolescent Behavioral Services. And welcome back to the program.
Thank you.
And you've been in this position for since July, so 6 months or so.
Yeah.
So tell us what you do in your current position there.
Well, a lot of what I do is coordinating trainings for our staff. We have a lot of different clinical staff who need to be sure that they are current on the latest things going on in the field and that they're keeping all the continuing education requirements that they need to keep their credentials. And so some of what I do is bring in trainers to provide training to the staff, and some of what I do is that I actually present trainings to our staff or get other staff within the agency to put together trainings on different topics depending on what their expertise area might be. And then another part of what I do is that I provide training in the community when people have need or interest in learning about a topic. I might go, a lot of the school systems have asked for training, especially on things like anxiety or trauma, a lot of stress on students and staff lately. Sometimes community groups will ask for something, and so we go around and try to put information into the community, especially if they're interested or asking for it. We're always willing to, work together with other agencies, partner, and try to put that information out there.
Okay, and you've been a clinician for a number of years, but I'm sure that in the last few, it's really changed a lot.
It has. I mean, everybody's dealing with things that are brand new, and we don't have any good template for knowing exactly how to respond to a lot of things. But people are dealing with a lot of things that they've never had to deal with before, and that means a bigger demand for mental health care. We've seen a lot of increases in anxiety. People are dealing with uncertainty, and uncertainty always triggers anxiety in the brain. We see a lot of people dealing with trauma issues because they've been through things that they have never experienced before, and they're the extreme ends of stuff. We've seen a lot of grief, a lot of losses in the past few years, and a lot of just having stress from having to adjust because so many things are changing, and they change, and you just start to get used to it, and it changes again.
And it changes again.
And so, people are trying to do the best they can in those circumstances, but it's hard. Yeah. And so we try to help.
Okay. So previously you were a trauma specialist. So tell us, what were some of the things that you dealt with, and how you, train people in that area?
Well, a lot of what I work with personally is I work with a lot of abuse cases. I do a partnering with the Children's Network, so that when child abuse is reported or suspected, children go there to have the interviews where they gather all the information about what has happened to them, and a lot of times afterwards they recommend that they get involved with some counseling services. And so I actually have an office right there in the network where I can help to link them with services through CNA, or even talk to them. Sometimes they choose to go somewhere else, and that's fine, but talk to them about how counseling could be helpful for their child or their family, because a lot of times the parents are also struggling when they find out their child has been abused. That's a really hard thing to hear. You want to believe you can protect your kid.
Right.
And so
you start to blame yourself.
Yes.
Which is unfounded.
It is not the parents' fault. They obviously, as soon as they know, they do what they can to protect their child. But it's hard. It's really hard. And so adding an extra thing on to their load of now you got to go out and find services, we found that it was easier to say, well, hey, there's something right here. Would you like to talk to somebody that can help guide you toward whatever would be most appropriate for that case? So I've done a lot of work with children who've been through those types of things. I've seen some other types of issues. Sometimes it's just things that happen in life. People have fires, people have awful illnesses, people have, things where family members die. So it's not always abuse. A lot of things can happen in a life that
cause
can
a trauma.
Cause a trauma. But when that happens, it's really helpful to have someone to talk to about it and to help you understand, because most of us don't realize that what we're feeling when these kinds of things happen are actually normal reactions. It feels like, oh, I'm going crazy, but that's actually, like, often it's the normal and appropriate reaction to a really abnormal situation.
Yeah.
And it's not the person who is dysfunctional, it's the situation. And so helping them to understand that there's nothing wrong with you. You're doing the best you can. The situation was really tough. And then helping them to have some tools so that they can deal with that. These bring up big emotions. I work a lot with little kids, and they may not know a lot of emotions. They may not know how to express those emotions appropriately. So they start coming out through whining, a lot of complaining, a lot of sometimes anger. And it often happens that they don't have an appropriate target.
Tool, yeah.
Because the thing that is making them angry is not something they can rail against.
Okay.
So then they take it out on their friends, or their teacher, or their mom,
parents, yeah.
you know. And so helping them to find, well, what's an appropriate way to get that anger out? What's an appropriate way to get the sadness out? And to know that it will end. It feels like the end of the world, but it's not. And you will be happy again eventually. There is hope. So helping them reconnect to that hope and find the meaning to go on. And sometimes the most beautiful part is that they find strength in themselves that they never knew they had. Or they find resources, people who love them that they never realized were there for them in that way. So it's really great.
So that sounds like, I mean, this sounds like this would be a really depressing job, because every day you're dealing with something bad. It's not usually something good, but
It
there
can
are
be.
good outcomes, and
Yes.
and that's how you get through this. I mean,
Yeah, it can be
Personally,
tough, because there are times you hear things that
couldn't
are
even
very
imagine.
hard to hear.
Yeah.
Yes, things you never imagined would happen. You see people's pain, and if it ever gets to the point where I don't feel that, then I need to move to a
on.
different career, because it does touch you. It does affect you. But then when you see that other side, when you see someone making progress and finding hope and thriving, that's when it's completely rewarding and totally worth it. And so the balancing of those makes it completely worth a while.
And since you've been in this business for so many years, you probably had some people come back as adults, and that must be really heartwarming.
Every once in a while, I'll run into someone, or occasionally, when I'm finishing up with clients, I always invite them to send me a letter, drop by. I would love to hear from them again, because I want to know that they're doing well. And, you know, they do come back sometimes, and it is so great to hear that, oh, well, they're doing well. Or I ran into someone during the summer who had just graduated and was doing great, and I had worked with her when she was very young, and so it was nice to see that she was doing so well, and just to know that their life continued on in a positive direction.
Okay. All right. Well, was there anything else that you wanted to add for now? If people wanted to find out more about, you know, what seeking help through CNA, how would they contact you?
Well, they can really call either of our offices. We have, well, we have four different offices, but we have an office in downtown Canton. They can call, it's 330-454-7917. They can call our office at Belden Village. That's 330-433-6075. Or they can go online to childandadolescent.org.
Okay.
And there are ways to connect through there. And we will.
And you have an office here in Alliance, too.
We do. We have an office here in Alliance, and I don't have that phone number
okay,
memorized.
They could find it online.
They could find it online. Yes, we also have an office that's located inside Glen Oak High School in Plain. So we have people in a lot of the different schools throughout the area, so if people are not able to make it to those offices, very often they can find a resource close to them that would be more convenient, and we're incredibly flexible at the way that we're willing to meet families wherever they are, because we know people are struggling in a lot of different ways, and we don't want to add extra struggles onto that just to be able to get the services that they need.
Okay.
So,
all right, well, Mary, thank you so much for being with us again, and we look forward to seeing you another time.
it was great to talk
it's
to you.
so interesting what you do and how you help our communities, so
Thank
you. And thank you for watching Q&A with CNA. I'm Kyle Schwarz.